Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization Committee meeting. And today's date is the September 15th, 2021. The approximate time is 1:32. We're here at the Laredo City Chamber of Commerce, Council Member Chambers, 1110 Houston Street. If we could have the call meeting to order, if we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, Ms. Briones will be helping with the roll call.
Good afternoon. Honorable Pete Sines. Honorable Judge Tano Tijerina.
Present.
Honorable Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez.
Present.
Honorable Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez. Honorable Dr. Marta Martinez.
Here.
Honorable John Galo.
Present. Present.
Honorable Councilmember Vanessa Perez. Mr. David Salazar. Mr. Humberto Tito Gonzalez.
Present.
For the record, you do have a quorum.
Very well. Motion to excuse.
Chairperson,
Yes,
I make a motion to excuse those that are not here.
Second. Motion second. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much for that. Next, we have citizens' comments. Do we have any citizen comments at this particular time? None to
No, we don't have any citizen comments at this time.
None to be had. Very well. We'll move on. Item number 4, items requiring policy committee action. We'll go ahead and start with A.
Judge,
Approval. Yes, sir.
motion to approve.
For the minutes? Oh, very good. I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any other questions, comments? They're closed. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 4B, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2021-10, adopting the following proposed amendments of the MPO bylaws. So Article 1, I believe, is, number 1 is Article 2, Section 2.3A, entitled Administration, shall be amended as follows. What will be scratched, will be removed, will be the City of Laredo Planning Director shall act as a Transportation Planning Director for the MPO. That will be removed. What will be added now is the MPO shall be led by a full-time MPO Transportation Planning Director. Any questions or comments on this? If so, may I have a motion, please?
So move to,
Open public testimony, is that correct?
We had open attending
They've been
comment
open,
period.
no?
So it's closed?
And so right now we're receiving that public testimony, and then we need to approve a resolution for the bylaw change. The public hearing was open at the last.
So you want us to close the public hearing?
Yes, correct.
So
you
may I
want to
have a
close
motion?
first?
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing and introduce the removal in addition to the bylaws, as stated in the
Article 2.
section.
Yes.
Second.
Motion is second. This would be taking care of the closing of the bylaws. Closing of the public testimony and then removing and adding the bylaws. So that was a motion that was moved. I have a motion. I have a second. Any other
So this
questions?
is just to clarify, from the perspective of finances, then what is going to happen as far as finances for salaries and that sort of stuff? I know we're just doing, we're basically changing the language, but I want to find out how the finances is going to work as far as who's going to cover the MPO expenses now, who's going to cover the salaries.
Correct. So the purpose of this change right now is just to reflect the current situation. And you have a separate director, separate planning director, and a separate interim MPO director. This is one of the first steps that was identified through our MPO process review. That is still ongoing. This was one change that needed to happen. The next steps is, again, to find out what changes need to happen to that agreement, and then make a determination on the fiscal agent. In terms of finances, the money is available with the MPO. We have money to be able to hire a director. The thing is, there's not a FTE created at the city level for a MPO director. That's one of the next steps that we need to do as well, as we're changing that agreement.
Just for
So this is forgive me, Judge, this is a formality to be in line with our current relationship, which is you are separate from the planning department, and right now our policy does not allow us to have you. And so this language would then rectify that situation that we are currently having. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, and this does not conflict with the planning agreement that we have. That's the one that needs to be changed to be able to give the policy committee the authority to hire a director. So right now, this doesn't conflict with that. So that's the next step that needs to happen, is to change that planning agreement.
Thank you, that's all, just.
Very good, thank
Does
you.
I have a follow-up on that?
Yes.
So, forgive me because I wasn't here at the last meeting, but Kirby's last meeting, we adopted some changes, correct? So, has the MPO been separated from the city as of right now or not?
No, there's not a separation. The action the policy committee took was to undertake this MPO process review and to go through these changes. So that's what we're doing right now. We're undergoing the process review to find out what's going to be best for the MPO and to go through this process cautiously. The separation that has happened is the MPO and the planning department basically, being separated and now having separate directors. That was one of the goals that the policy committee had mentioned, or the intent of the policy committee. So that has already taken place, but there's still conversations that are ongoing.
Okay. And so what we can expect, I guess, maybe next meeting or future meetings is we'll be bringing a MPO budget, I guess, separate and apart?
So the MPO has always had basically a separate budget. We had approved that unified planning work program. That's the monies that we're able to use for our studies. We're able to pay staff from there. So basically, that money is there. We do have a separate budget. That's always been the case. Some things that we need to clarify is just staff right now, because there's staff that have always been, that were hired as planning department staff, and in the city system, they're still coded like that, but they're being paid by MPO funds because they've been doing work for us, and we're trying to determine exactly.
Well, I guess that's really the question is, who directs those individuals that are being paid with MPO money? Is it yourself?
Yes, right now it's me, through the bylaw, so that's why this change was important, because the bylaws state that the MPO director supervises MPO staff. So now that you have this change here saying that it's a separate director, now we can move on to be able to hire a policy director, and then also make those other changes to staff. I think at a later date, we need to get into that conversation right about the fiscal agent and all that, but that's why we're doing this process review with Mr. Bill Frawley. I'll have an update on that. He's gonna be here next month to just talk about the changes that have been ongoing and the discussions we've had, and then hopefully get some direction from the policy committee of how you all would like to proceed.
And then when would we expect to not have an interim?
So that's what I'm talking with HR. Like I mentioned, there's not an FTE at the city level. So if the city of Laredo remains the fiscal agent, right? So whatever, let's say that's what occurs. The city of Laredo remains the fiscal agent. We need to make sure that since they're the fiscal agent and they're going to be a city employee but supervised by the policy committee, we may need to make sure that FTE is created at the city level. So right now at the city level, there's not an MPO director position. So since HR for the city is the one that helps us with that process, we would need to create that position. Let's say something else happens, fiscal agent
Well,
changes.
Perfect time, it's budget time, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's say fiscal agent changes, then, we would have to talk with that fiscal agent. If that fiscal agent, a different fiscal agent would provide HR services to us, then we would have to talk with their HR to see how that position is created. There are some MPOs that their director is a contract employee of the policy committee, and the rest of the employees are city employees or fiscal agent employees. That's another model that can be looked at, but that's the reason why we're doing this review, and why next month Mr. Frawley will be here to hopefully go over some of that.
So the only way, again, is through a fiscal agent to be able to give them retirement and their benefits for insurance and everything, because if they were all contract agents, they wouldn't be able to get qualified for those, or they would be much more expensive to be able to afford them those
Right,
perks.
it will be more complex and,
Very well.
more difficult.
Thank
I
you.
believe, Doctor, just let the record reflect, please, that we have Councilwoman Perez in attendance with us as well.
Noted, thank you.
Commissioner, what had happened, if I'm trying to go back in my memory bank, is we had adopted this policy and appointed the director, and the interim director. However, there's an agreement between the fiscal agent, the city, and then the state. And so we had to redo that, and we had to go back, and it was the city manager that had to, through the contract with the state, appoint the interim director, and it was then Mr. Eads then appointed the interim director, and now we're trying to rectify the language. That's correct, right, Mr. Eads?
That's correct, yeah, if I can add to that. So this special little caveat from there, since we did separate the MPO from the city planner, There's also gonna have to be another agreement between the fiscal agent, which at this time is still the city, and the new MPO director. We have provided guidance to the city already on how that agreement, and that goes to, what Mr. Galo's speaking about, is the logistics of as far as, benefits and all that other stuff. There's a lot of details that need to be handled, but that's a separate agreement that has to be worked out as well.
And then the last point, Judge, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Was that there is not truly an independent MPO. There is always a fiscal agent
Always.
involved. So what we were told originally was that there was a true independent agency, or MPO could be truly independent, but as it turns
Well,
out.
I think you're always gonna have a fiscal agent, whether it's the city, the county, or somebody else.
Mhm.
But, according to Mr. Snyder's comments, was he was having to serve two bosses, and that's what we don't want. So we wanna make sure, even though you're a fiscal agent, and I really don't have a problem moving forward with that, as long as they have their independence
Yes,
from the city manager or the county judge and the commissioner's court, if they're in our court, that they serve everybody equally, and they're not directed or feel threatened by one particular entity. So that's all we need.
And just for the record, that threatening was the first time that had ever happened, so.
And just for the record as well, this subject was brought up before those remarks were made. So I had already been bringing them up for the last year or two, I think.
I don't know if it did occur or didn't occur, just if it could have occurred in the future.
And with this bylaw change, now it reflects the current situation, and it's a step in that direction of being more independent. So the next thing I has mentioned is changing that planning agreement to say that the policy committee supervises the director. Just so you know, we're still housed in the planning department, but all our offices, we moved to the hallway at the planning department, so the MPO staff is in an area altogether now. So those changes have happened internally as well.
Just kind of a weird off-the-cuff question here. So, again, if you're a fiscal agent of the city, do they have to abide by city holidays, city rules, on everything, or can they adopt their own?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, I think since the way the agreements are written, it mentions that the same benefits would be granted to MPO employees. I think you would, still abide by the same holiday schedule. I haven't seen another MPO that has a different.
I don't want to get into that minutia, but I'm just saying, I just wondered, are you obligated to take that versus federal holidays or?
And that's why in that agreement, those things can be stipulated. There would be a separate MOU, separate agreement just between the MPO and the fiscal agent to detail those things. So if you wanted to adopt a separate holiday schedule, then you would have to work that out when we're at that step to create those MOUs.
Sorry to prolong.
Just for the record, no, it's okay, and just for the record, I know that there was a murmur out there for a while that myself, I know this is not a vote, but I just wanted to put it out in the record that I was uncomfortable with it being here in the city, and that's by far not the truth, and actually I'm very comfortable with it being here in the city. I just wanted an independent director that stood on his own, but as far as the fiscal agency is concerned, I'm more than happy to leave it with the city of Laredo, so I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you. So I have a motion, I have a second. Any other questions or comments? They are closed. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and go to item C, discussing the possible action on the Achar Ruthinger Road project. Do we have anybody?
I believe, Judge, that has been transferred over to TechStop, so we'll provide just a brief. The last meeting, still the same report. We're on target for our planned letting of August 2023. Again, that is when the funds will become available. Those are the Category 7 funds that have been allocated by the MPO for that project, and that is why that project is currently sitting in 2023 to allow for those funds to become fully available. We are finishing the environmental assessment that was pending, and our consultant is already on board and starting the design of the project as well.
Judge, can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
I was reading in one of our packets recently that if you, there's an issue with the name, that highways have to be named after the number, but that only city municipalities can change it. So wanted to see how we can get that going.
Good point.
Honorable Judge, Chairman, members of the committee, Ramon Chavez, city engineer, I can address that question.
Please, sir.
So that is correct, we did receive documentation from the county on July the 28th. And so at the last city council meeting of September the 7th, the city council approved a resolution, 2021 R213, expressing the support to designate a street name for this 6-lane divided highway as a Charter Ruth Injured Road.
So it's good to go
Yes.
as is? We don't need to do another resolution or anything?
No, that's the reason that we brought this resolution for city council approval this past meeting.
But let me
September
clarify,
7th.
I think I know, I think what she's asking. So the state itself, and I'll use Mines Road as an example. It's Mines Road for the city, but it's FM 1472. That is the way it's designated on the highway system. This roadway, when we bring it on system, we will need to designate it with a roadway with a highway designation number, like you mentioned. We do not have that yet because it's not technically on system, but it will at that point get a system number.
Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't gonna stall out for that or anything. I had seen that in the package.
No, basically what it turns out to is you have dual designation, right? Roadways, that's all they have.
Okay, very good. Mr. Chavez, thank you. Okay.
But, and so, just wanted to ask, that includes all the Ruth and your portion also, right? Everything's in the same 2023?
That is correct, but both portions correct, yes.
Any other questions for Mr.?
I do. Is there any way we can, if the environmental study is done sooner, is there any way we can let the project go start sometime in 2022?
So again, the reason why it's currently sitting in 2023 right now, we're currently rolling over $6.3 million. That is what the MPO is being allocated in Category 7 every year. And 2023 will be when that full balance will be available. We could potentially look at seeing if there was a mechanism to accelerate it, but that may mean on a statewide level that we may have to borrow money maybe from another MPO and do some sort of a swap. Those things are not outside the realm of possibilities, but they will require additional coordination and agreements to do that. Yeah,
It's called borrow.
yeah, that's the nice way of putting it.
Is the MPO the only way you can do it? Could the RMA, the city, or the county put up a stake, maybe general funds, but as long as it's gonna be repaid?
That will be something we would need to look into as far as how that repayment could be used, because I know those Category 7 funds do have certain stipulations that are tied to them, but we could explore that option as well.
Are the ARPA monies up for grabs on that? Could the ARPA monies be used, the CARES Act monies? Does anybody know? At least to upfront the money.
I would not know the answer to that question.
Well, I think that's something that we should look at. I think the county has had some
We have some discretionary ones.
discretionary money that might speed the process along, so that'd
Judge,
be wonderful.
I think that if we can do anything in our power to get it going
I agree
sooner,
with you.
since the money's already there, it's designated, it's needed, like yesterday, and,
I agree.
maybe we can explore that.
If we could, Mr. Mendiva, if we could please explore the option of the ARPA monies being used, and maybe we could upfront those monies and
Any
get
monies.
reimbursed. Excuse me?
Any money's being,
Well, any monies, yeah, that's correct. Any monies. You wanna do that,
we
please?
can do bridge loans, so, we can, any kind of thing, like you say, if the county, the city.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to point out, Judge, and everybody on here to that is, so the estimates that we currently are working on are estimates that were created at the preliminary schematic design level, right? So one of the first items that our consultant is going to do is go back and create a more detailed estimate so that we feel, I guess, have a little more certainty with those numbers. And once we have those, we can definitely bring them back to you all and find out maybe what the gap is or what the potential is. Like you are talking about funding it with other potential monies.
Well, yeah, we've been working on the charter with them.
Since I've been here. We're in my 9th year, so.
2010, 2011.
Beautiful.
I was gonna ask, is it still proposed, as 4 lanes with frontage roads, or is it just a 6-lane road?
No, it's gonna be 2 lanes separated, so you're gonna be building the frontage roads, which is the outside, 2 lanes in each direction. And I just wanna do point, while they may have been working out of the concept or idea may have been in place 9, 10 years ago, the actual monies were not allocated by the MPO until 2017, right? So that is when the MPO decided to start
Well,
allocating the
because it
money.
was private for the most part.
Right, correct, so that's kind of what's added to the time frame as well, so I just wanted to clarify that.
So it's 4 frontage lanes and then two, what,
No, just 4 in total, 2 in each direction, furnish road, so you're just bidding the outside lanes.
just the outside lanes for this
Exactly,
time?
yes, correct,
No interstate at this time?
correct. no.
Judge, can I add?
Please.
Is there a process that where you identify certain projects as like super priority, or, I mean, is there any way we can designate this as like a priority, super priority category so that it can facilitate all of that, and then maybe
It
if
has
it
been.
being in that category would allow for more flexibility in these types of things that we're talking
It has
about?
been,
'Cause-
but I'll allow Flex to answer that.
Okay, well, that's.
Are you talking about in relation to maybe for it, to compete for additional funds to accelerate the
Just to
project?
get it going sooner, I mean, it's just.
To get it done before
it's-
2023,
it
or start the
needs-
project before 2023,
Yeah,
2022,
it's-
anytime then.
Right, at the end of the day, at this point, really, where we're at on 2023 is because that is when the funding is available. Short of any other funding becoming available before that, that is when it would have to let. So if there's discussions that want to be had, of possibly the city, the Army, the MPO, adding additional funds to accelerate that, then that is a potential.
What are the
avenue.
additional funds that we're looking into?
So I think we're just talking about right now, if you look at, we have
6 point something.
36, around 36 million, and we can provide those if you want to update at the next meeting. We have chart.
I'm just curious,
Yeah,
what are we
I
lacking?
think we're like about 36, so if you look at, we're looking
Lacking
at.
36?
No, we're at like 36 right now. So I
We're
think we're
lacking
lacking
6.
about 13.
Oh, 13?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you said we were lacking
Then we're
6.
out.
But it's really all a moot point until the Fonzie's done, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
You can't do anything till the Fonzie. Once the Fonzie's done, I think we might be able to move some monies around or do something on it. I mean, because, you know,
We need to accelerate.
look, all the money's been there for the loop, and it's just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. But until all the environmental utilities are moved or anything, we're not gonna spend any of that money. Are you right?
I was just gonna add from an MPO perspective, that project has been prioritized, and that's why we're at this point. So I believe Category 7 funds, those are the ones we're using. Those have been allocated to this project. So that's one category that the MPO Policy Committee has discretion over selecting projects, as well as Category 2. So it's already been through that process. So the Policy Committee has already made that decision in the past. But we could explore whether options are available. But from a MPO standpoint, we're at this point already because the Policy Committee has said that it's a priority project.
Very well. Okay, so does anybody, before we move forward, does anybody have any action on this particular,
No, just one quick question. We talked about Cat 7 monies. Will there be more Cat 7 monies available? Do we know yet through the budget?
There is, yeah, that Category 7 allocation is every year. The new UTP came out, I believe it stayed around the same amount.
About 6.5.
6.5 million.
Every year.
So every year, again, if you look at right now, the 10-year UTP that just came out is 20, correct me if I'm wrong, 22 to 31? 31, and you're gonna see that money in the future, it's there. So we can start having discussions and seeing how you wanna allocate those other funds for the future. But again, they will not be available until at this moment, until 2024, and then they start, compiling on top of each other.
very well, let's move on. Item number 5, there would be no action required on item 4C. Item number 5, reports and presentations, this will be no action required. A, status report by the Regional Mobility Authority, and I believe we have Mr. Jed Brown here. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Judge, members of the MPO, Jed Brown, Chair of the RMA. To your point, Commissioner, and Tito, I don't know how this would work. We actually do have approximately $9.5 million allocated to the RMA that we have not tapped into, that was given to us at our creation. Maybe that could be moved up to help expedite Ajar Ruthinger. I can't say that for sure, but it's something we could look into, knowing
have
that
a
the money
deal,
would
sir.
come back.
You have a deal.
But we have to attach to that part of what I'm getting ready to, but I would like to give you all an update on our projects. The 4 projects that are the most active for us right now are Killam Industrial Boulevard Turn Lane with Mines Road. Our portion of the project was scheduled to start first, but due to a nationwide delay with traffic signals, we got moved a little bit down the road. Supposed to start next month, our portion, and finish about 5 months later, which is in March 2022. Los Presidentes is moving along nicely. I am told that we're 35 to 40% cumulatively into that project with a bunch of storm sewer work, water line, street preparation. The contractor, MTZ, feels good about finishing that project still in May, even though they've had some weather delays. TxDOT's portion where TxDOT's constructing the Excel decel lanes and the connection on Cuatro Vientos should finish, I believe, approximately about a month to 2 months behind the portion that we're working on with the city of Laredo. So hopefully by June, July, that whole section of roadway, including the connection to Cuatro Vientos, should be complete. That's not that far off as far as I'm concerned next summer. Springfield, we are excited to be a big participant in the Phase 3 portion of the roadway that's going to be constructed soon. That was awarded on the 7th of this month to Azar. Our portion of that $4.2 million project was $2 million. We are proud to be a participant in that. The last update of the major projects we're working on is Vallecillo. I reported to you all about 60 days ago. Things were looking great. We had a position that Congressman Cuellar put out there for an earmark for us. My understanding is that at the level of the Senate, both Senate Republicans and Democrats removed the earmark from it. So if it were voted on today or voted on the 27th of this month, the Vallecillo project would no longer be funded through that particular bill. When I got that news, I was pretty devastated. Now, that doesn't mean it won't be put back on in a week and a half, but I talk with Melissa almost daily, and she monitors that with the congressman's office every few days. So that doesn't mean by any means that Vallecillo is dead. It just means that we have to look at plans B and C if the earmark is not attached. The good news is Congressman Cuellar's office reports to us that $27 to $30 billion with a B is supposed to come in March of next year for transportation-related projects around Texas. Those monies will be allocated out to different local levels, be it the city and the county, and also to TxDOT. So we have another way of going in. Plan B could be working on something with the MPO, the city and the county. Plan C could be that somehow we're able to include Vallecillo in the UTP. The important thing for us for Vallecillo Road is that we continue to leave it as a local high-priority project. Going back to the comment that was made about Achar Ruthinger, it's funded. It's teed up perfectly. If we can help to expedite it, great. If we can put part of that $9.5 million to maybe cover the $6 million, or 6.7, I think I heard Tito say. It sounds like you need 2 more years of 6.7 to have it fully funded. If we could somehow kick in 1 year of that to get you there 1 year quicker, great. I think you'd have to expedite all your plans and specs, and you probably have it all programmed to start at a certain date based on when you thought the funding would be there. I don't know how that works, but if we can help, we're open to certainly consider that. If we can help expedite Achar Ruthinger started, but once Achar Ruthinger is going, we would love the MPO's help to now focus on Vallecillo the same way y'all have put the efforts into Achar Ruthinger. So I'm here to say that we will look at what we can do to help expedite Achar Ruthinger. The last project would be, that didn't appear in your notes, but Life Down, certainly when the county's ready to start looking at traffic studies there, we've committed to that traffic study for that project. So we need a little bit of time to engage somebody for that, but once the county's ready to move on it, we're ready to start working with the advisors that y'all have hired.
We're ready.
Okay, well, then.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
We should have started already, actually. I had requested that a long time ago from the architects, but.
Okay, and I've actually spoken with the architect, and yesterday at Jiffy Lube, I ran into a consultant of the architect and reminded him that we're on the record of being a participant in that, and let us know when you want us to help. And so,
You need court action?
I say architect with an engineer.
You need court action for that or what?
No, sir. No, I don't believe we do. We've just pledged the funds. We just need to, participate somehow with.
Please proceed then.
Okay.
I believe
we'll
Doc
figure that out.
has something.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to talk to you about 2 separate issues, if I may, since we're doing a status report here. One, the city is about to start communicating pretty aggressively with the private sector regarding a new bridge that we're going to be looking at. Whether the location is going to be in the south or the north is something that's sort of a big hot topic right now. But what I wanted to ask you is from an RMA perspective, the connection, if you will, of Loop 20 all the way down to Rio Bravo, is that something that is in the future plans, I guess, both for TxDOT and for the RMA, and that would help us facilitate the possibility of a south bridge, if you will. And so that's one of the questions that I have for you, and then I want to talk to you about one other thing.
Well, to address that one, it's interesting you bring that up. I had no idea that was going to be brought up. Here's a talking points memo that I had the consultant that works for us, HNTB, draft in preparation for the meeting that y'all have on Friday. We've been following the meeting. We actually thought y'all were going to talk about it in the last council meeting, but that's a big elephant to eat in one meeting with all the other council agendas. So I see that y'all created a special called meeting. I won't be in town on Friday, so I wanted to put something together to have Melissa Montemayor present on behalf of the RMA. And to that end, we as an RMA have always taken the position that the tremendous improvements are needed at the current World Trade Bridge and that another bridge is needed. We've never taken a formal position creating a resolution of support for a specific location for that next bridge. So it's something that we would certainly do. We need to look at the information. What I've seen is it appears, and we have leaders of the city and the county here today, that the city and county both feel it should be in South Laredo at a specific location. And I don't think we as an RMA would ever stand in the way of the city and the county if that's where they believe it should be. I would say that we would throw our support behind it. Anything we do, we have to go in. I, as the chair, put something on the agenda. We consider it. We take a vote as a group. So I can speak on behalf of the RMA, but it's hard for me to sit here and say, this is our position. We haven't actually taken a formal position.
But in reference to the connector, was that something that you think the RMA would be willing to help with, is to basically connecting where Manganaheim Road is all the way down to Rio Bravo, so we would
Excuse me,
have.
some of these emails keep
Mine
popping.
is,
Oh,
sorry.
You owe us something, so you owe us a Coke or something.
So,
I don't know what I.
so I guess what the vision would be that as we're going down on Cuatro Vientos Road, that we, instead of turning on Manganaheim, it would be a direct connector all the way to that Rio Bravo area. And so that's something that I think we had brought up about a year ago. It became one of our priorities, and that's something that maybe we should talk about a little bit more going forward, a project that you could really participate in that would pay huge dividends for this community.
Well, and we certainly, our job is to work on roads where they benefit the most members of the community, be it residents, be it commercial business, to pick them in areas that need the most help. We as an RMA don't have tremendously deep pockets. We've been collecting money since our creation in 2014, and we've built up a decent amount of money that we're now deploying into projects like the four I just listed. And then we have that about $9.5 million sitting on the side that can be used on TxDOT specific projects. So I would think we would be interested in participating.
And Chairman, the reason why I bring that up and why it's so crucial is because there is going to be apparently billions of dollars that are going to be available for next year for infrastructure projects. And the shovel-ready projects are going to be the ones that receive the money, those that are at least down the tracks a little bit. And that's something that I think you, as an RMA, might be able to help us with, to get it to that standard where we can present it for a grant opportunity. And that south connector, I think, is crucial because right now the traffic would not allow us to be able to have that straight shot that we're looking for to facilitate traffic. And so I hope that that's a project that you guys would be comfortable at some point when you talk to your committee. And I hope we can get to that point where you can get it to the point where it'll be a shovel-ready project.
Well, if y'all want to get us some information for us to consider, we're going to look at our next meeting in early October, probably about 3 weeks from now. If there's things that can be done between now and then that we can talk, if there's, and I don't know if this is an MPO project, a city project.
What, the bridge?
No, well, specifically what Dr. Martinez is talking
I think
about.
that connector would be an MPO project because
Okay.
it's just basically we're planning out potentials, and it's a regional project, is what I would say.
If I may, obviously, the county's willing to sponsor if the site is correct as far as all the initial, I know we've had a lot of different studies on this, and it's basically all showing in the south, which would be considered the county responsibility. We've countless times have met with TxDOT. I know even Carolyn Mays, when it comes to that kind of situation there, Doc, I will tell you that they're willing and wanting to move fast with the end of the loop and to be able to do the connectors, that little connector right there, they're chomping on the bit. They're ready. They're just waiting on us, to be quite honest with you, on wherever that bridge is going to be. But obviously, all the studies are showing it. So I just want to remind everybody that is a county initiative, and we move forward from there.
Well, I appreciate those comments. There may be things that have been going on that I'm not aware of as far as discussions that I need to make sure I'm aware of, but everything I've heard is that points to South Laredo, and I haven't, we don't have a problem with South Laredo. I think a concern that we have is we have to do everything we can to alleviate traffic and take care of the problem right now in the Mines Road, because that's the epicenter of trade right now. That's where the focus is. But we also have to think long-term, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
And I'm just going to give my 2 cents on the bridge, if I may. It will be very, very quickly. I want to remind everybody history, the history of Laredo, when we had a one-bridge system and everybody started locating their warehouses and whatnot around the bridge, it obviously was working correctly. When bridge number 2 came in, obviously you had some individuals that were a little disappointed because they were having to move shop. And then obviously now with bridge 3, same thing, it happens. And so, but there's a little piece of the pie for everybody. And the good thing about it is we are the #1 in port in the United States, but we have to continue that and we have to work and thrive. And I believe, even as far as, the Laredo Police Department, even putting out the advisory warnings for the traffic, I don't understand how we're continuing to be looking on Mines Road. It's just not adequate. The structure is not adequate. The infrastructure is not adequate. So I think moving sites, moving wherever, I don't really care if the city has it, the county has it. We need to put Webb County and Laredo forward and first and foremost. And so regardless of where it's at, I will tell you on the county side of it, we're willing to work with the city of Laredo. We obviously, I keep getting told that the city of Laredo runs the bridges and we don't know anything about them. Well, I will say for the record, and I'm just going to put this out there, it didn't stop Whataburger, McDonald's, or anybody else. Was Glass Kitchen was the only people making hamburgers here. And it's not the only way, it's a matter of which way. And so we can all take a bite out of that hamburger one way or the other, and it will be the best thing for it. And I'm going to bring this up again. El Paso's ranked 16th in inland ports with 4 commercial bridges. We are #1 with a rat hole, and it's hard to get in and out, egress, ingress, and Mines Road is difficult. So I just think we have to take our blinders off and open up our ears and just make sure that forget about where we stand and what position we have as an elected official, but more importantly is what we're going to do for our community in the long run. So that is my 2 cents worth.
Judge, if I may.
Yes. Oh, go ahead, sir.
And forgive me if I've said this on multiple occasions, and I know that you weren't here, Chairman, at the time. Since the inception of the RMA, I've always advocated for the RMA to be able to do all the environmental, to have these projects shovel ready. So if the RMA had come in and, again, it wasn't your fault, but I'm saying, had a Char-Ruthinger done because we're waiting on the environmental, have the Loop 20 done because of the environmental. And if TxDOT or Juan can tell me, is it feasible to make sure that we start pushing all our priority projects to the RMA and say, guys, do our studies for us, get this as advanced as you can. Is there any reimbursement agreement we can say, when this project gets started, we're going to pay them back or we're going to do it? Because I think they are probably the best people to get this thing moved forward. We talked about the I-69, studying out to on Highway 59, any other, all these infrastructure stuff. If we could have some environmental done, and I don't know what it takes for you to go do environmental. Do we have to have plans and specs? At what point can we go out for environmental so we can give them direction? Especially, we talked about the connector 59, 359. Obviously, we have to have a location, but without that environmental, we're going to be waiting years and years and years.
To that on the environmental, though, we all need to remember that if you do it, it times out. If you do it and you don't pull the trigger within a certain period of time, you just wasted all those monies.
Okay, what's the time
What
frame?
is the time?
I think it's 2 years, but
Is that it?
is that correct or incorrect?
Yeah, so again, this all comes into a logistics and timing stuff. A lot of those reports are 2 years, and then some of the other intricate reports that are inside that, some of those are only good for like 6 months. So again, it does become a timing issue, and I think if we lay out the plan, and I like what you're saying, we can probably better plan it. But a lot of these too, in order to get ultimate environmental clearance, your project has to be funded. You have to be financially constrained.
That's where we run up. See, that
Right.
when I took over as chair, one of the things I did is I put the brakes on a few things because I wanted to understand how we were spending money to make sure we weren't wasting it.
Sure.
And because of the timing issue of it, I put the brakes on Via Seal to figure it out, to understand the timing, the economics, and then fast tracked it once I understood it.
No, this definitely
So-
makes it more difficult to move forward, rapidly, and that, like,
So,
whether it's on purpose or for the right reason, just, it does make it tough.
Judge, can I make?
Give me 1 second, I'm sorry, Dr. Martin, he already
Well, I
asked.
had another thing to discuss, but Judge, with all due respect, we're running multi-billion-dollar business, we're not making burgers, it's different, it's different, but I'll
With
respond.
all due
once-
respect, we're not incompetent to run a multi-million-dollar business.
I'm
So-
not saying-
All due
Billions,
respect,
billions,
McDonald's probably
billions.
makes more money than you guys.
I just wanted to make a comment about Tito's comment as far as environmental happening when the project is funded. Is there any way to shift that to where it's like a percentage? Because if you start a project and you've got 80% of the funding, but by the time you get to the point in the project where you need the rest of the monies, it will already be funded through the pipeline. Why do we have to wait for it to be 100% funded before we can begin if it's gonna take 3 years? But, I mean, if we have 36 million, for example, at Charruthinger, we've got 36 million sitting there. Can't we use that to start going, and then as it, we get the other 6, it adds to the construction
is
for that
ongoing.
time? And why can't we shift the rules to where it's not, where we put a good percentage on it, and that way we can start, and then it goes, and then throughout the time, it's 100% funded by the time it needs to be?
Yeah, so that's the way that works. So that's exactly what we're doing with the Charruthinger. It doesn't have to be, the money doesn't, how can I explain this? The money doesn't have to be 100% in the bank, but it has to be obligated to the project. So like a Charruthinger, where we should have environmental clearance hopefully in the next 8 to 9 months. We don't have all the money there. Like you said, we have a portion of it, but we have already obligated the money. So as long as we have it obligated, we can get environmental clearance.
So why can't we start working with the money that we have, and then by the time we need those remainder of the 6 million, and like a deal, like Mr. Brown said, where they could.
No, but that one it's ongoing. They're almost gonna finish the environmental on Charruthinger.
Right, but it's still not letting until 2023, right? So that's where I'm kind of like, I'm still stuck on this whole, I don't know if we need.
So
to
you're
make a-
saying why not use 6 million for the first year and then the other 6 million after the second year? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, we have 36 million already, right?
Yeah.
There's
Why can't
already
you
a
do the two
pool of
entrances?
money.
I guess is what she's saying. Can you do the entrance on Mines Road, as soon as the environmental is done, because it's funded? And you can say the middle portion is, you can decide which phase is not funded. We can say the 2 middles, or we can bring the 2 ends and then connect it or whatever.
Yeah, okay, so you're talking about like piecemealing the project or breaking it into separate projects.
36 million, you're almost halfway there. You're more than halfway
Yes,
there.
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
is
that
where-
that is something that we could look at, if that's something that the MPO wants to look into. We need to look at, obviously, the traffic patterns and the flows to see what doing that, if it would really improve, right? The traffic out there, but that's something we could look at.
Well, because there are projects waiting that cannot get access off of FM 1472, but once Charruthinger comes on, it would start to create these like.
Economic
auxiliary
development, yeah.
Roads coming off of it, so it would allow, movement and progress, and even Green Ranch residents might be able to get another outlet out of the neighborhood that now they can't get it onto FM 1472. Like, there are things that can be done instead of having to wait. I guess that's my point. And I
It's a
don't know
good,
if we
it's
need
a
to
good,
make
no,
a
it's a
motion
good
or
point.
something.
It's point taken, and you made it clear, and it's a good point actually to have.
To
Yeah,
bring
we-
that back together
we can-
with what Commissioner Galo said, I mean, if there's a way that we as an RMA can help expedite things, we'll certainly consider it. Yeah, pretty much everybody here has my cell number and knows how to find Melissa Montemayor or Tony from HNTB and Doug Howland, any of us, get our ear, and then we can figure out how we can help. Some of the time, it takes longer for me to get answers than I like, but we can certainly regroup and visit about this at the next MPO meeting in October or in November. I hope your second question's not as tough as this first one.
It's tougher, sir.
Oh, no, well,
No, it's not. Judge, man?
Yes, of course, please.
Our next item is going to, we're going to talk a little bit about the Unitec Industrial Park, which is a big problem area for us right now.
Give me 1 second. Does anybody have anything else to add on item A?
This is in reference to item 8.
Oh, this is?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is another area, Chairman, that I think is really important for us to look at. I think this area continues to grow rapidly, yet our ability to have ingress and egress through this area is really diminished by the fact that we only have 2 ways out at this point.
Which one? I'm sorry?
We're talking about Unitec.
Oh,
And so access is limited, yet the ability to develop in this area is extraordinary. Beyond that, if we don't figure out a way to have increased access in and out, then it's going to limit our ability to develop this area so much so that even our traffic director is concerned about it. And so this is something that I hope, when we go through this conversation in a little bit about what we're currently working on, this is something that I hope in your next meeting you might be able to discuss as well, this region. Because we've talked before about having or extending McPherson, extending International north as potential sources of ingress and egress. And so this area, I know we studied the northwest area extensively, but I think the northeast area must be studied just as extensively. And so I just wanted to let you know that this is something that I think is a high priority for the city and for the county. For now.
Very much so.
well, we'll definitely pay more attention to what's going on here and see if there's any participation we can have or thoughts or advice with the traffic engineers that we use. And I'm not sure if this area was specifically studied as part of the North Laredo transportation study that was done.
I think it's mostly the west.
Okay, all right. Well, then we can definitely look at it and just see how our position on it or how we can get involved and help.
Thank you, sir.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
if I may have a comment on that, because
Yes, sir.
I think the city just granted Majestic like $57 million TERS, and you all didn't require them to make any connections outside of the thing. I mean, that's where that money should have gone, to be able to expand all that area and make them put that in with those monies. But it's all within the complex itself, and so as a taxpayer myself, you know, I find fault with that, where you should have said, you're gonna make this connector and this connector and this connector, where it doesn't only benefit you, it's gonna spur economic development all around it. The city itself owns lots of property there in the back, and you've never done anything with that road, so.
Commissioner, if I
Those are
may,
my comments, sorry.
and I definitely understand that. However, we're not allowed to go into negotiations in extra outside of our jurisdiction. That's something that the county can do. And so the county.
Is
can
that why
actually-
y'all threw it to us?
Yeah, well, the county can do those connections.
next-
The county can negotiate in the county. The city can only negotiate within the city limits. And so extra corporated, we can't. And so you're right, it's up to the county to say, hey, we can make these connections and fix this problem. And so I think that in the county, your ability to participate is going to be fantastic if you do decide to participate, because it's going to allow those connections to help solve this issue of this ingress and egress. And I think through the RMA's leadership, we can find a lot of those solutions.
But I think we can only emulate what you're doing,
No, I think we have the opportunity to be able to address some of your issues.
And the next item on the agenda is in relation to Unitec. This who.
But I think that's it for now. Chairman,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you very much. It was a great conversation, actually. Very healthy. I like it. Okay, item number, what is it? B, update from city and county on the plans that they have to improve the internal roadway infrastructure and circulation at Unitec Industrial Park. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the doc here. Doc, you have anything to say on that?
Yes, of course. So this area, can we get it on the map so people can kind of see it? I think it's important that.
I can do that. I know Mr. McGee, the traffic director for the city of Laredo, was here. He was gonna, I think, just give an update on this. We can put the map.
So
Yeah.
just as a little background, we've had a very significant issue for the last several years. One is that because of the rail system here, we've had several instances where when the rail was stuck or the railroad was stuck, people couldn't access this area, including police and fire. This area continues to have issues with police presence and continues to have issues with fire presence, and so we're working on solutions for that. We were able to secure an ambulance that's now closer, and so our response time is sooner. But additionally, we have a lot of traffic issues with people trying to get in and out. We've had complaints from those individuals and those businesses in this area that have been asking for a solution. These solutions we thought were going to come a little sooner. TxDOT had acquired some money to create more parallels or to extend or expand the parallels to allow more trucks in and out. But some of those plans were scrapped for an interchange, a north interchange that's going to attach at Hachar-Ruthinger. The problem that we're facing is that we have a real problem now. We have possible future solutions, but we don't have any current solutions for this problem. To Commissioner's point, there is a potential for a TERS that might be able to, in fact, solve a lot of these issues with the county's participation. But that's something that is still going to be 2 to 3 years out, and we needed something currently. And so at the request of the business owners, the judge and myself, as well as the city and county officials, got together with the members in the area, and we came and presented a solution that we think might work in the short term. And with that, Mr. McGee, would you mind presenting?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the council,
No.
MP, I'm sorry. Danny McGee, City Traffic Director. A couple weeks ago, we had a meeting, and some of you attended, and so you're familiar with what we talked about. But for the rest, I'll go ahead and go over all the details. More than a year ago, I was tasked by City Council to look into some short-term solutions of that area. Things that took a little bit longer because we had to get TxDOT involved with that plan, and we had to coordinate some things back and forth. Basically, what it came down to is, thanks to the county, the county sheriff was helping with traffic out there, and they had basically a seed of an idea that we used to look into this. But in my opinion, it came down to that we only have, I really call it 1.5 entrances. The other one's blocked so much by train, it's almost useless half the time. So it really came down to the carriers interchange. My idea was that we needed to cut down movements that were preventing the trucks with severe grades going up on the frontage road, and then we also have severe grades coming from east to west. And every time those trucks slow down, I make this joke that it takes them 10 gears just to get back up to speed. So it really affects the capacity. So my idea basically was, and this is an idea that I expanded from TxDOT. There had many studies done on I-35. One of them was to put in a direct connector, which I thought was a great idea. At the time, there was a major interchange, still is planned for the Uniroyal interchange section right there. But it was going to go over the railroad tracks, correct me if I'm wrong, though, but it was still going to come down to where you come to a traffic signal. I say, well, it really kind of helps a little bit with the trains, but you're still coming up to a grade and for a lot of money. So the idea I have here is to mimic what the idea they had, which is basically a poor man's direct connector. So by eliminating some of these movements, we can keep the trucks going. Whether they're going 5 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour, at least they're moving. If you can kind of picture in your mind the direct connectors we have from the Mines Road area going to San Antonio, that one's the trucks are always just one after the other. They may be going 5, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour, but they're moving. And that's the idea here. So I wasn't privy to bring the study that TxDOT had. We had a draft copy, and until they finished that up, I didn't want to present it here unless they want to present it. I don't know if you guys have Tito or Roto. But basically, the study showed that this idea would work. But it's come down to we have to make some decisions about if we're going to commit to this or not. The idea is to eliminate movements. Hopefully you can see the interchange right there where the 2 red arrows are on the far left. And what the reason is that we need a commitment is because we're already getting requests for carriers to be expanded over to the west. And part of that just doesn't fit with this. I know Texas will have to ask for a TIA or some other study to see if we handle that traffic. From the study that we did not incorporate that traffic in there. We're talking about a lot more trucks. So we were
So
able
the bridge will need to be widened then?
No, the current plans is just to attach into the street. It's gonna go up to the existing structure, but it will not widen the bridge. There's, as far as I know, there's no definite plans right now to do any kind of widening. Is there?
I don't understand what we're doing here, so.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm trying to do is create capacity to go in and out of the Unitec area. Okay, so on, I can't point it with the mouse here, but where you see the two arrows on the bottom left?
Yes.
Cursor.
That's going into Unitec, and that's coming out, okay?
What's coming up?
Right now, we have, the trucks have the ability to come down from, I guess it's the truck stops on the west side.
The mouse was working, sir.
Yeah, you have a cursor, it's moving around. Yeah.
See it there?
Okay, I can't see. Let me see. Here we go, sorry. This area here, okay. This area here. This to me is the key to the whole situation. Okay? Can you see it?
We got it.
Yes. I can
So
see that.
the problem was that trucks can come down from the truck stops over here, and if they want to, they make another left turn to go in. So every time that we have to give a red signal to the other ones, it stops them, and anybody's seen, we've had backups that go all the way down to the ramp. And it was such a bad queue that one time we were thinking at TxDOT to even move that ramp or close it because it was backing up onto the main lanes itself. Hasn't happened so much lately, so thank God. So that decision didn't have to be made, but it's still affecting how we're getting in and out. As was made a point in that last meeting, there's a lot of concern about EMTs and that kind of thing being able to go in there. So I think there was a derailment not too long ago, a couple years ago, that locked in people because we didn't have a way to get in and out. So there's a lot of different concerns, not just the trucks waiting in line, but also emergency response. So that's what we're trying to do here. So basically, what we're trying to do is, if you can see the cursor right there, just because of the necessity of doing it, we started getting a lot of truck traffic coming up north, the South Unitec, and that necessitated putting a four-way stop there. Well, the effect was that it started backing trucks back onto the carriers. So what the deputy sheriff out there was doing, he was basically suggesting that we turn this green area right here into basically a huge roundabout. And I thought that was a great idea. But if we didn't get the carriers moving, it really wouldn't do a whole lot. So in looking at this, like I said, TxDOT had TTI, the Texas Transportation Institute, look at it, and their numbers showed, they modeled it, and we had to go back a couple times because the model wasn't really calibrated correctly, at least in my opinion. And now it really mimics the traffic out there, so it shows that this will work, at least temporary. I'm looking only at temporary solutions that can be implemented now.
Do we have the room there?
I'm sorry?
Do we have the room to do the roundabout?
It won't, no. All it will take is converting two-way streets into one-way streets.
But how do you move them to Uniroyal if you have, with the train blocking, and you have them all backed up on Uniroyal?
No, basically, if you can follow the cursor, a truck will come in,
Okay.
and then it'll go down the street here,
Yes.
and then,
That's without any lights or anything, is
yeah,
that correct?
see right here, we'll have
There's
some
a-
kind of
there's a
roundabout.
stop sign
Yeah.
right now.
We'll remove those stop signs, and the
Okay.
trucks can either go around the green area here and come back, and then make a right. So you won't have any lefts internally either.
So you won't, not the red line, they're not following the red line.
Well, the red line could be a larger,
Yeah, both.
But I'm saying, once you get to Uniroyal, if you have the same issue, how are you gonna feed trucks onto Uniroyal if they're already backed up?
it'll be the same thing. It'll have to be where we give priority to one or the other.
So carrier will stay as a two-lane, not one lane?
Well, like I said, we haven't completely studied the inside yet. We have to look at, Texas gonna help us with the movements to see if they can make those turns, because now the trucks make the turn from this side of the street, now they'll be making them from the other side of the street. Okay, does that make sense? So
It
it'll be
does,
closer.
what threw me off was carriers, does it stay one or two lanes? I guess,
Well,
I know you're telling me the studies
yeah.
aren't there, that's what threw me off.
Well, this is just a proposal of how we could possibly move traffic. The one we're looking at for sure is the one in the green. The red, the one in the red, that's a separate color, is because it's a potential. And we'll have to work with the landowners out there and see about the parking situation. So there's still a lot to look at.
Yeah, because that's, all those people won't have access to their warehouses, because you'll have constant.
Well, that's what we have to look at. You know, if they come in off of Uniroyal, they would have to go all the way down and then come back around this way. So it does affect. It does affect, and we have to look at the patterns. So, but at the very least, the one that we're looking at is the green area.
I guess to me, you know, time is money, right? You have them idled, they're wasting time, they're wasting money. If you have these loops, how long is that loop? A mile, 2 miles in total? That red
No,
line?
it's
Less than that?
Yeah.
well, I think from here to here is less than half a mile.
As long as you keep moving them
Yeah.
around, even if they have to go another 5 minutes away, but it's still better than idling, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They might be-
And that's what the study showed, is that they're traveling further, but it's a lot faster. It's like I do every morning. I drive south every morning, make a U-turn, and get back on Cuatro Vientos because it's faster.
Okay.
Even though I go for longer.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm only looking at situations that we can,
Immediate,
solutions for
immediate.
now.
I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Texas looking at the ultimate solutions. But we just have to, as a city and working with TxDOT, we're gonna have to see about the connections that, there's a big development coming off of this, on the west side. And connecting that, it will throw this idea out the door.
No, that's 2 years away.
They're actually planning now to
No,
connect that
that's
street,
right, Thursday.
tomorrow's meeting.
So, Mr. Chavez, how long will that be from plating to when they have to make the connection?
Honorable Chairman, members of the committee, Ramon Chavez, city engineer. The plating process, depending on the project and any revisions need to be made, say 2 to 3 months. And then after that, whether construction might take, depending on the size of the project, from 4 to 8 months, let's say. But it will depend on the size of the project.
Thank you.
I was just worried you were gonna say 2 years, and then we're back to square one. That's not bad, okay.
So as you can see,
And are the landowners that that were there at that meeting, they were going to get together and have a meeting. Is there anybody here that represents them?
not that I know, they invited me to another follow-up meeting on
Oh, yeah.
October 6th, I think.
Mr. Trevino?
Mr. Trevino, you're more than welcome to come on up, sir, and give your 2 cents as well, sir, please. Give us some ideas.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, my name is David Vidal Trevino. I'm a vice president at Daniel B. Hastings Incorporated. I am here on behalf of Daniel B. Hastings, not on behalf of the Property Owners Association of Unitec. There is a Property Owners Association meeting that's going to take place October the 6th at our facility. Mr. McGee has been invited and will be presenting this plan. I can tell you that there's, in this green area, a lot of the owners in that area are probably going to be not very happy about not being able to turn left on South Unitec to get to their facilities and have to go around the long way. I think what Mr. McGee and the city and a lot of us are going to have to do is explain to those property owners that for the greater good of everyone, someone's going to have to sacrifice, right? And unfortunately, it's going to be them. We are further up the road on Carriers Drive, so it's not really going to impact us as much. But yeah, some of the points that were made a little bit earlier, it's unfortunate that when the city did what they did in conjunction or with Majestic, that there wasn't, in my opinion, and my opinion is based with blinders on, right? Because I'm not really aware of what is going on a daily basis. It's just growing exponentially out there. And we feel sort of like, excuse my language, but bastard stepchildren out in the boonies, and we've been forgotten. It was a great vision some years ago to start building up north and create these industrial parks up there. and from what I've heard from from Roberto and from Tito from TxDOT, you know, there's already plans up to the toll road, you know, 10, 20 years from now. And I'm hoping that the foresight is taken into consideration is ways in and ways out, because we are landlocked. And when Unitec is blocked by UP, Carriers is the only way in and out for us on the east side of 35. And as I mentioned to some of you were at the meeting that we held at our facility. Some of the folks behind me were also there. You know, this derailment, the trailer traffic that continues to increase, it makes it very, very difficult, if not impossible, for first responders to arrive at our park. I'm not saying that the individuals who passed away would have survived if first responders would have been there in 3 to 5 minutes, but it took them half an hour to get into the park. Trailers were backed up, and when they're backed up, if you guys have gone to San Antonio, you see them backed up. It's hard to get on that entrance ramp. It's hard to maneuver around all those tractor trailers. So whatever the MPO can do, whatever the city can do, whatever the county can do, whatever the state can do. One of the reasons why I invited even Congressman Cuellar was in 2020, the property owners were assessed over $315 million in taxes. And just in, we're not including the personal side of it because those numbers weren't published yet. Based on 2020 tax rates, you know, that's $8 million to the city, the county, to the school district. And I know that we are within the city limits, and we are probably looking more towards the city to help us than we are the county, but we are within the county, we are within the state, we are within the United States of America. And so my thought process, idealistic as it may be, was to gather everyone involved and say, we're paying taxes to you guys, and if you look at the last 12 years at $5 to $8 million, you know, that's $60 to $90 million in taxes that we paid. And not one road has been improved since we've been there, since 2008. So, you know, it was just, it was time to have this meeting. We had a meeting 18 months ago at Warner Transportation. The pandemic came. Everybody understands what all had to happen because of that. But it was time to get the ball rolling. And so, yeah, we are in need up there. As I jokingly mentioned to a few folks, you know, hoping to retire in 18 months, so whatever happens after 18 months isn't going to be any sweat off of my brow. But there's a lot of people that work up there, and there's a lot of voters up there. And so we're looking to all of you to do what needs to be done to help alleviate the congestion, the building of a police substation, the building of a fire station with paramedics, something in the area. I'm sure that once Majestic and that whole area goes full blown, there is going to be a need for first responders up there. I'm sorry I ranted and went on. I don't know.
No,
if there's
actually,
anything
you've done a
specific
really
that you
good
guys
job.
wanted to know.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it. You're absolutely right. We appreciate your input. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you all. God bless you all.
Thank you for being here.
I think that's it for now.
Is that it, sir? Okay, very good. Anybody else have anything on that particular point? We'll move on. Thank you so much.
If I can make one last point, if you
Please,
don't
sir.
mind. And this is really just being a dead horse, is that the area that's creating the congestion now, it's a point I brought up in the last meeting, is just under 1,000 acres. And the other developments coming in, Majestic, they've got 2,000 acres one side, and then the interchange of carriers is already way over capacity, and we're looking to add more. So my job is not to stop development, my job is just to let people that are smarter than me figure out those things, but so you know what the picture is.
I agree.
Can I ask you though something? So Majestic's coming on in the back and the TERS that was granted, or is there any monies allocated to this front area?
I'm not privy to those terms, I'm not sure how that's
It
going to
was
work.
my understanding that they stayed within the parameters of
Majestic.
Majestic, that's correct, sir.
And that's my issue.
Yes, sir. I think we're gonna be able to, and I think on Doc's point here, the council And he is, basically, it's gonna be up to us to be able to open up those
Well, I mean,
those connectors
you know,
with Majestic, and we wanna do something with it.
you weren't privy to that conversation, but we did have a meeting with them, and I think Mr. Uribe was on that meeting, along with, legal and everybody, and they did not request anything outside. It was strictly to widen their streets, improve their lights, and be actually more competitive against their neighbors.
I did want to, Judge, if I can just point out, so the improvements that are planned at that Unitec interchange are planned for September 2024. So we have $110 million in that area, 65 million at Unitec, and then another 45 million to the future Charwood interchange. And that is something to just mention what Mr. Councilman Martinez mentioned. That initial money, the initial plan was to throw all that 110 million at Unitec. But after looking at this new development that was coming in and looking at the projections, it was not gonna solve the problem in that area, which is why we chose to, in conjunction with the Charwood project, build out a whole new interchange out of Charwood. So in the future, just so everyone has perspective, that interchange will look similar to what IH 35 and Loop 20 currently looks at now. That is the undertaking that we're taking right now, as far as securing right of way and all that,
At a Charwood?
at the Charwood.
But you're not doing, sorry.
Right, but we're only doing the western side, acquiring all the right of way on the west, and then building the interchange. The county portion, the part on the east, that is the portion that, again, hopefully through these meetings and collaboration through the city, county, RMA, developers, and TxDOT, we can come to some
Why would
sort
you do the west side first if the east side's already established?
No, it's the west side.
So the west side is where Ruthinger is attaching, so we are going to elevate that and build an interchange so that Ruthinger can connect.
This is gonna be north of the current Majestic.
Right.
Yeah. There needs to be plans for a structure to cross the
We would take a
railroad.
road right up.
Right.
We need the road through the county.
No, we understand that.
They can pay.
Well, it's through Ruthinger. We need their permission.
Okay.
And it's gonna come back and connect to whatever the copper or some street that's back there.
Mr. Trevino, you might have to continue working for the next 3-4 years, sir, in order for you to see your to fruition. Dice que ya no, ya no quiere.
Judge, if I may suggest, we really need, I guess, MPO and county and city to see the long-term plans, all the major thoroughfares that plan to be on the same page.
Yeah, we do.
Because, like I said, none of this was brought up during those conversations, which I found very unfortunate. And I specifically asked them, they said, no, we want all the money to be inside.
They were basically, with all due respect to the developer, they have to do what the entities are willing to do.
That's right.
That's it. And so, there's always deals to be had, but at the end of the day, we're the governing body and you have to tell them what we want.
At the end of the day, so if we don't do anything with them and they proceed with what they have,
They won't.
well, I wouldn't turn down 57 million for myself. I mean,
If I'm not mistaken, they put it, the way they moved the motion was that we have to as well be partners with them in order for yours to actually be
they
implemented.
could always
Is that
come back
correct?
and just ratify it.
Well, yeah, they could do that, but I think the way they have it currently right now is in order for the cities to get implemented, the county has to be on board first.
Then, and if they won't move forward because we take that money and say, all right, we're gonna take them, I think the combined was 98 million or something. And we say, we're gonna put it all in infrastructure getting into you, but nothing into you, so they're not gonna move forward either.
Yeah, and remember that those 98 million don't exist right now. Those
No,
are-
they exist in future taxes, that's what they're counting,
if there's development there.
yeah.
They don't exist right now. There's zero in existence. Right? So we're playing with monopoly money until they put
No,
their money
not
on the
because,
ground.
remember, they're taking all of it, well,
They're not.
okay.
And I think, Mr. Eads, would you like to discuss that or no? No, okay.
Yeah, no, it's a sidebar. Sidebar, I was about to say, no, it's a sidebar. Okay, let's move on. And it was another great discussion, thank you guys. Presentation by, item 5C, presentation by City of Laredo engineering staff on city-sponsored projects listed in the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP. Mr. Chavez, where's he at? Oh, there he is. I thought you were playing some kind of puppet or something.
No,
I don't
no,
know what
no.
you were doing.
Trying to
That
pull
was-
out the presentation.
I was like, where did he go?
Where did he go? If I can get this.
It will take about 2 minutes?
Yes, it will. Yes,
All right.
I'll be brief. And we, Ramon Chavez, city engineer for the record, we did present a package as part of your, with a status report, and I'll be brief. And this is for the Carlton Road grade separation and for the realignment of Fletcher Lane. So as it relates to Carlton Road grade separation, on September 7th, City Council approved supplemental services to the consultant to look at roadway design, bridge design, and other updating documents that TechStop requires as part of their design manual specifications. As far as the design schedule is concerned, we're looking at receiving 100% plans in October of this year, environmental reevaluation in May 2022, and project letting August 2022. Construction phase services to be completed in August 2024, or 2 years later. We are, as far as the real, we're working on utility coordination with AEP, AT&T, CenterPoint, City Laredo Utilities, and Spectrum. As far as real estate is concerned, we are pending a court date with Crown Properties scheduled for September 27 to discuss the appraised value of the property, which they're not in agreement with, as I understand, and we're trying to settle that as we speak. That is for Carlton Road. As far as Fletcher Lane is concerned, if I can open this real quick.
If I can, really quick, Mr. Chavez
Yes, sir.
and MPO, the rest of everyone here, I think it's important for everyone to understand that this money that's tied to both of these projects, and we've had this discussion with the MPO as well, they were earmarked specifically for these projects, so they cannot be moved anywhere else. There's been expenditures on them. I think both of them are going on almost 10 years of being allocated to them. And the important thing, and the reason why I bring it up, and not because of the 10 years, the issue is that a lot of these construction funds, it was at construction dollars 10 years ago. So there's gonna have to be a reassessment of how much those are in dollars now, how much money is still left in the contract, and determine if there's a gap to get those to actually go to construction.
So it only like, it was 24 million, was it, for Kelton? And they used all that in acquisition, no?
21.5 million, what I have in my notes.
I'll make sure to say something in the next time we talk.
Okay, very good. Mr. Chavez, your 1 minute answer.
Yes, so as far as the realignment of Fletcher Lane, the consultant is communicating with their environmental engineer who is finalizing mitigation plan. From the real estate side, we are pending a acquisition with JNR GON Investments. We did, our real estate division did send a letter July 26th with no response, so therefore a final notice will be sent to them. The city has already acquired Mr. Rosanda's property, but again, we're still pending the property acquisition from Mr. Gonzalez. And because of his refusal to respond, the city may need to consider condemnation proceedings.
I thought he had responded originally.
Not currently. That's the information that we have as of last week. And this is the Gonzalez property.
If I may ask them both on Calton and this one, why haven't you gone to condemnation? I know there's a process, and you would go through that process, you gotta serve them, tell them, give them the option to purchase. But Calton, you've been doing this forever, and I know they bought some of the properties, but if you're still negotiating, it's crazy. You should have gone to condemnation a long time ago, and and then it's up to the court. You're gonna pay whatever the court tells you to pay.
And
But at least you can move forward, because from what I understand of the way the law reads, they don't have an option. The only thing they can fight is how much.
And as far as Carlton Road is concerned, that's right now the issue. So the property already belongs to the city, from what I understand.
Okay.
And they're just contesting the amount that was
Yeah,
appraised.
but I'm saying we're 10 years
Okay,
down
so
the
we're already
road.
down that road, okay.
Yes. And again, we're trying to come up with a solution. I did have a meeting this morning with our city attorney's office, because there was a hearing this morning on that. So we're gonna try to resolve it. I think that those are things that, what they're asking for is within the limits of the project, so that's what we're working on.
Because inflation these days is gonna kill you.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
That's all.
That's
Director's
it.
comments?
You took it in 2 minutes. Very good.
Yes, sir.
All right, director's comments, make it in 1 minute, sir, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
thank you. I'll be brief. The director's report is in your packet on the last page. First, I just wanted to add that Jason Hinojosa, he's joined the MPO team again. He had been moved to the planning department, was helping with current planning activities, but he's back at the MPO. He's gonna be helping us with mapping activities, as well as our travel demand modeling activities as we prepare for our next Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. As part of that MPO process review that we discussed earlier, Mr. Bill Frawley was here in September, and he met with technical committee members. And he'll be here on October 20th to meet with policy committee members. And of course, I mean, he's probably watching this meeting right now. So the discussions that were had here about the fiscal agent and how the committee feels, I mean, that'll be taken back to Mr. Frawley. And so we can follow up on the next steps in terms of that planning agreement and the other staff composition that needs to be looked at as well. On August 24th, 2021, we were informed by TxDOT about the audit that had been requested. Supposedly that will be starting in November of 2021. It is programmed for fiscal year 2022, so they expect that to begin November 2021. And as I mentioned, the technical committee did meet. They met on September 7th. We met in person. That was the first time we had met in person in over a year. And we would like to thank Metro for hosting us at that meeting. Also, talking about that partnership that we have with Metro and just, thanking them for, graciously hosting us. We're also working with them on a comprehensive operational analysis. It's being conducted by consultants. Also, that the MPO funded. So that's ongoing. In the next few months, you should be seeing a report on that. But there's been stakeholder meetings, and we've been meeting with Metro and the consultants regularly. And this is to improve the Metro transit system. So that's all I had for my report. Just brief. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Judge, if I can add one note, I promise I'd end on a good note, right? So the UTP.
You busted a lot of bubbles
Yeah,
already.
I did. So the UTP 2022 did pass, as Mr. Brown mentioned, right? Unfortunately, there wasn't any funding that was given to Vacia at the time, but we did get $34 million of additional funds in Category 12 for the US 59 expansion project. And those were additional monies that were determined based on our funding, because we are going to be doing the whole US 59 corridor, all concrete. So we requested additional money, we got those funds from the UTP. So those funds are now there. And on an even more positive note, we did get environmental clearance already for that US 59 project on September 1st. And we hope to, by the end of this week, be making our initial offers to purchase right away. So
Okay, when you're saying that, you talking about the loop or are you talking about, US 59?
I'm talking about the loop, the loop inside from International all the way to US 59.
US
to Saunders.
That's something that probably needs over there as well. And in the Unitec area is cement streets, not paved. As hot as it gets here, and the amount of weight that's on it on a daily basis, it tends to be gets to be a real bumpy road. We could land some planes on it like Germans did. So simple as that. Okay.
Judge,
Yes.
can I ask? I'd like to make a request, that we place on for next meeting on the agenda to discuss, discussing again the River Road project that had kind of stalled out, on Mines Road area. I know it was in the discussions at the city level and MPO
Will you
level.
please add
bring that
another,
back.
will you please add an agenda item for
Yes,
the
we'll
next
add that
report?
item.
Thank you.
Would you like that for discussion with possible action?
We'll just, why not? I mean, you never know. I don't know what action we would take. Ooh, second. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Thank you. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Brother Matt? Good job.